Thank you, Jacob. You're doing well, Jackie.
Yep, I'm really well, thank you.
Fantastic. Now it's a look. What we're trying to draw out of these sessions for the people is really looking around your journey and how you were attracted into coaching and development and what retains you in the sport. But how you got into coaching is something that we need to step back a bit and look at your how you got into water polo initially as an athlete, how you started, so we can understand how you experienced coaching in the first right. So in the first place. So can you just dive back into the pool a little bit as an athlete? How did you get started in water
Yeah,
polo?
it was a long time ago, but I was a student at Wiley Park Girls High, and at the time Heather Bryant or Heather Rowan was my PE teacher, and at the time she was a national in the national team, and she knew I could swim, and she asked me to come along and play water polo. I didn't really know what it was, and I'd played netball and swam, and I went along to the junior competition at Gunnemutter Bay. It's now at Sutherland Pool, but it used to be at
Yeah.
Gunnemutter Bay on a Friday night, and started playing there in the under 14s competition, and
How was
Friday,
that when you first started going from swimming into a ball
yeah.
sport in the water? That would have been pretty
I
challenging.
wasn't a great swimmer, so it was
Okay, really? Yeah.
yeah, I was an average swimmer and played netball, so I had I had ball skills and kind of game sense. So yeah, it was fun. It was a really good community involvement. By the end, you'd play under 14s, then you jump into the next pool and play under 16s, then you'd play under 18s. It's been a really good breeding ground for a lot of sharks and stingers
Yep.
in the past. And then after Heather, she played for Sydney University at the
Right.
time, and after a year or so, she said, "Oh, maybe you should come along and play grade water polo on a Sunday." So went along
How
there.
old were you when you were playing that, the grade?
I think I was about 15.
It seems so young that from the other interviews I've done that you're thrown in for lack of a better word, the deep end that
It's
you're young playing against some
yeah,
adult players, which
yeah.
would have been, was that intimidating for you at the start?
I was probably lucky that Sydney University were a very good team and won the Sydney Premiership for 12 years running. So I went into a team that was full of Australian team members,
Okay,
and we kind of dominated the competition
right.
for a number of years. So that's where I sort of ground my teeth and
Yeah.
got
And you
that
had some
experience.
protection
And
around
I
you.
had the protection of those older players who were elite at the time,
Yeah.
and are still friends to this day.
Oh, fantastic. One thing I should say for anyone attending, if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll draw them out as we go because there might be something that we're talking about that you want to understand better at the time. So please feel free to put your comments in. We'll draw them out. Sorry, Jackie, about
You're
that.
right.
But I was
So
just
played for Sydney Uni, and once again another lucky opportunity for me was that Ian Trent was the coach of the Sydney University the club team, but he was
yeah.
also the state team coach and the national team coach at the time. So
Oh, that's pretty handy. Yeah.
I got under his eye at 14, and
Do you remember
won
what stood out to
there.
you from him then, from his coaching? Was there anything back then that really was it fundamentals that he taught you? I'm trying to
Um,
understand what stuck in your mind from his coaching that you might
um,
have taken in.
Minnie, or nickname is Minnie. He was an excellent tactician,
Yep,
knew the game very very well. Um, had a really good rapport with his athletes,
yep.
and he made it fun. You
So that
know,
was a big element. So it was very social, it was fun, and you felt
yeah,
like you were learning, improving.
yeah, yeah. Had great tactics and different plays, and we drilled them and rehearsed them, even though at that time you only trained once a week with
Yep,
your team.
yep,
When we were on, and we worked on those tactics and the plays that we would use, and had fun names for them, and you know
yep.
it was just, a really good environment. Being successful helped, and, everyone got on well. We had fun, and, had a great time together.
What were the expectations for you as a player then? So did you do extra things to improve yourself? Was there an expectation outside of the pool that you'd be doing other things coming
Yeah,
in?
so
Right?
we would have one club session a week, and then you were expected to do your own swimming training. So joined a swim squad and went along and did that by yourself two or
Yep.
three, 4 times a week whenever you could. There wasn't that much emphasis when I first started playing on strength and conditioning. So
Yep.
that was later on towards the end of my career that was a really big focus.
Yep.
But so you'd have the one club session, the 3 or 4 swim sessions, and then at different times of the season, if you were, training with the state team, they'd have 2 or 3 sessions a week. Or if you were at that time, the national team only went on tour for one tour a year. It's not like today where they're together quite a
Yep.
lot. So for the couple of weeks before, you might go on a camp to the AIS for a fortnight,
Yep.
and then come back, train by yourselves again, and then go on tour for 4 weeks or whatever. So there were definite seasons. So
Yep.
you train and play, and the summer season here, then you'd have a bit of a break, train again, in preparation for an international tour or whatever. But it wasn't, the athletes at the moment, don't get very much of a break at all.
No. Well, were you hard on yourself to do the extra things? What was would you commit, dedicate yourself and do the extra things to give yourself the best opportunity to
Yeah,
do?
I think that's important. Like, as I said, I wasn't the fastest swimmer, but I
Yep.
but I worked hard to, go to swimming. I remember when I was in high school, my last couple of years of high school, the pool I trained at was about 2K from school. And so my mum would drop me at swimming training. I'd go to swimming training, I'd have some breakfast, and then I'd just walk to school. And then, some days even walk back afterwards to go for that second session. So I think it's, if you put in the effort, you reap the rewards.
And why this is important, because I'm going to draw it out in your coaching, you've got a certain level of your
Yeah,
expectations of yourself.
yeah,
So how do you measure those against those that you started coaching with? Just to wrap up on your playing, as the levels because you reached very high level in your career.
yeah.
So did the fun stop? And this is a balance of the real high performance of the elite level. Did the fun stop, or that the pressure is applied more, but they kept the fun element and had very clear boundaries about what do you remember about that real high performance?
I think um, initially, so for the first 6 or 7 years that I represented Australia, it was self-funded. So,
Yep. Yeah, which
you'd
is
go,
amazing that you're
yeah,
doing that and
yeah,
paying your way to represent the country.
you'd go on your trip, or you do your fundraising beforehand,
Yeah.
and then you go on your trip. And I think especially with Ian Trent, um, he knew that. We all knew that, and so you would get to go sightseeing. You would get to go shopping. We were commonly known as the Australian women's shopping team because he knew that going shopping made everyone
Yeah.
happy. So um, as the more money came into it for us, or as the tours became funded by the Sports Commission and Australian Water Polo,
Yeah.
I think the expectations grew higher that, maybe it wasn't so much fun. There was a little bit more responsibility and
Yeah.
accountability because, you're not paying your
Yeah.
own way
Yeah. Yeah.
now. We're funding this. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you need to not step up, but, you know,
Yeah.
the expectation is there that maybe you're not going to go
Narrow the
more game
focus,
before you
but
play. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
How did coaching start appearing within your viewpoint, within your lens? Were you tapped on the shoulder? Were you asked to help out for
Um,
news?
I I was a school teacher, so while I was playing, I went to Wollongong University and did a primary school teaching degree,
Yep.
and started teaching while I was still playing. And I think it was when just as I was finishing up my career in the national team, New South Wales Water Polo brought in a rule where you had to have junior teams for your
Okay.
club if you wanted to have a first grade team. And
Really?
so,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so, in the past, we hadn't had under 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s. It was
Yeah.
just first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. Then they brought in the rule you had to have junior teams. And so it was in my last year, I think, of national team representation that I coached the Sydney Uni under 16 team. And then, yeah, just
Were
was
you
interested.
asked to do it, or you put your hand up to do it? How did that happen?
My hand up to do it.
And
Yeah,
what
just a bit of an interest. And yeah,
was it? Was it giving back to the sport, or you really? I suppose I should have asked in your playing. Were you? Did your leadership evolve? Were you a leader in the
yeah, at time
company?
I captained the national team for a
There you
couple of
go.
years,
Okay.
and,
Yeah.
the state team. So yeah, I think I was, um, yeah, I did lead those
Yeah.
teams in different tournaments and years.
So
Yeah,
you enjoyed taking that
yeah,
responsibility,
and I
and
think
yeah,
also being a teacher, you want to, just impart your knowledge, and
yeah.
as you said, give back to the sport. It
Okay.
it it gave me a lot. Like,
Yeah.
as I said, friends for life, great
Yeah.
experiences, world championship medals. But and then you go, well, it's time now to give a little bit back and
Yeah.
help the younger
It's
generation.
always a big decision on you reach the age where your brain still knows what to do and your body can't quite
Yes,
keep up with
yeah,
it.
been there
It's
for
an
a while.
unfortunate stage of your athletic
Yeah,
career where the wall comes pretty quickly, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, oh wow. So you've made that decision to help out and give back to the sport.
Yeah.
Going on the pool deck for the first time coaching, what was your expectation what it'd be like, and what was the reality of the coaching for you initially?
Um, I don't think I really knew what to expect. I went on,
Did you have drills prepared or anything, or you just
16-year-olds.
yeah,
Yeah, I had drills prepared, and I just kind of copied some of mini sessions, and okay, they can do that. And then maybe realize, well, they need a little bit more skill development, and I need to teach them how to do egg beater kick. So, you know, it
yeah,
was, I think I started with a little bit too high expectations, and then, very quickly brought it back down to, okay, let's try this, some little passing and egg beater.
yeah. It's an interesting dynamic, and that's why I wanted to go to your career, your expectations of yourself, and you reach the highest levels, and
Yeah,
you go into coach where you can assume that they'll be at this level. And
yeah.
then you're like, wow, I've
Oh,
got to strip
hang
this
on.
back down to basics. Yeah. Is that what you did you have someone to guide you before you came into training? Hey,
Not
concentrate on this.
really. I think it was
They just
just
threw you in?
you're
Yeah.
you're coaching these girls, and away you go. And they would train before we would, so do their training session and then jump in, and they'd sometimes hang around and watch. And yeah, I just think, I was lucky to be coached by some fantastic coaches, as
Yeah.
in like Phil Bauer, Bruce Falls, and Trent. And so I even now I find myself saying things that they've said to me and things like that. So you pick the good bits out of all of the coaches that you've had, and try and implement those characteristics into your own coaching.
Yeah. Did you set we've got a couple of questions I'll have a look at. Jackie, how did you navigate coaching kids at different levels and
Yep.
abilities in one team?
Yeah, that's always hard, I
Thank
think.
you, Jamie, for the question. Yeah.
Thanks. um I think you have to kind of, you can group them in different groups. So at times you can put the better kids with each other to, so they progress a little bit more and have a more difficult drill for them, and the learners set per se, by themselves. But I think you just start off with basic,
Yeah.
really basic drills that everyone can do, and then you can develop those drills into more difficult drills. And the the kids with the less ability might not develop it as far.
Yeah.
So you have like sort of differentiated
So you got
within
to
your,
get that balance right of not
yeah,
isolating kids that aren't as
yeah,
skilled and not boring the kids that are more advanced,
yeah,
but how do you
yeah.
advance both at a
Advanced,
level that's
yeah,
going to give
especially when
yeah,
they're playing in the same team as well.
yeah.
So, yeah, you've just got to
It's a
look.
great question. And you
Yeah,
don't know at the start,
no,
thrown
no.
in the way you are. Did it surprise you how much you had to strip back when you first started coaching?
Um, for the club stuff, I think yes, it was quite a okay. I need to maybe lower my expectations, and
Yeah,
they're only 16-year-old kids that haven't really played before, so
yeah,
let's get those basics right. Let's learn how to pass, learn how to do a beat a kick, learn how to shoot with the correct technique,
yeah.
and then we can go from there and develop game sense and tactics and things like that. Because if you can't swim and pass and shoot, then
Yeah, so it's really getting those fundamentals right when you started coaching. And
and
one other
that's
thing
also,
sorry,
sorry,
Jackie.
that's
Yeah,
also really difficult if you've only got 1 or 2 sessions a week. As I know in clubs, um you know the lack of pools or pool space is at a premium when you've got a club and you can only, okay, we've got this 1 hour. What do you focus your 1 hour on? And
yeah,
I think that's got to be the technical skills rather than the swimming. I think
yeah,
you leave the swimming and get them to do the swimming by themselves if you haven't got time, and focusing on the catching, passing, shooting, defending, and some basic tactics rather than spend half of your sessions swimming.
yeah. Had you coached girls and boys, or have you coached girls and
Um,
boys?
so when I coached at Sydney Uni, so I coached at Sydney Uni for a couple of years, and then I got a job at NSWIS coaching the women's program, but I also helped out with the men's program leading up to the Sydney Olympics. So I coached junior boys there, not a lot, occasionally,
Yeah,
and the women's program there. So I haven't really done a lot of coaching of boys, mainly girls.
yeah. One of the big questions that comes out, what's who's easier to coach, boys or the girls, or
Uh,
what do you find?
I, I don't know. I don't think I've coached enough boys to
Okay,
actually
yeah,
have an opinion
yeah.
on that.
When you first started, did you have clear boundaries that you set for people that were coming in? There's two things that are really interesting for people who have been watching the first two sessions is that the juniors is a good place to start,
Yep.
but you need skills for parents to be able to manage that. Was that something that confronted you early that you hadn't really expected or thought of?
Yeah, um, you I think you have to set up like not a shield, but perhaps have a manager who could be a parent around with you in order to kind of manage those interactions
Yeah,
with
just be that barrier for
parents and
you.
be
Yeah,
that barrier. So instead of, the parents coming to you,
yeah.
they go through the manager, and you set a time when you can talk to them. And always, I've learned this now, didn't know
Hindsight's
didn't
2020,
know at the
Jackie.
time.
Yeah,
Maybe have that manager with you if you always know if it's going to be a like a confrontational or a difficult conversation
yeah,
with the parents. You can sense why they're questioning their kid hasn't gotten in the water, and
uh,
they want to
yeah,
talk to you. Well, you can guess why. So
yeah,
maybe always have that support person if possible
yeah.
with you when you're having that conversation, and do it on your terms. Like, don't let them come up to you on pool deck and barrage you or confront you there. Just, okay, can we talk about this, before training next week or something, and kind of just put them
Yeah,
off for a little bit, because in the heat of the moment, people can be quite annoyed and
yeah.
aggressive, and so
And it
so
can
you've got
escalate.
to try and just placate them a little bit.
Yeah,
I understand what you're talking about. Let's have this discussion, you
yeah.
know, when everyone's a little bit calmer, and we can do it.
It's a great point, and you've got the mature head and experience that on a
Yeah,
bit. If we're trying to attract new young women coaches to
yeah,
coaching the juniors, that is a real risk, and it's
yes,
something that needs to be managed well. So, th from what you're suggesting, it'd be great to have a manager
yeah,
who's older and experienced
yes,
and
yeah,
and can set those boundaries and say, hey, those
yeah.
conversations can't
Yeah,
go on.
and it's often good to send an email to the parents and the athletes at the beginning of the season, laying out
Yep,
your expectations, saying, you know, your daughter or your son or daughter will, I will have conversations with them. I'll give them feedback.
yeah,
Ask them maybe why they haven't gotten in the water, because they should know, and have that open communication and set those boundaries early, rather than having to scramble, halfway through the season and go, oh, this is, don't contact me here or there,
yeah,
lay that out. So if you want to speak, you obviously talk to them, but
yeah.
if you have an issue, let's set it up through them, contact the manager, and then the manager will arrange something, and have that set out before you even start
Yeah.
the season, or even a face-to-face meeting with the parents. This
Yeah.
is me, this is what I'm about, this is what I want to do, and you know
Is
I,
that something we should be educating the club presidents more and
yeah, I
community
think it's,
boards that if we want junior coaches to come in, we've got to protect
yeah, and we've got to
them and
protect them
surround
and
them? Yeah.
support them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and give a template for the email. I've got a few I can send out to people.
But it's really important, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
it's similar to the umpires. We want junior umpires to come in
yeah,
because we're struggling with them.
mm,
But if they're coming in to get abused every weekend, then you're not going to want to do it
yeah,
at all. There's someone suggesting, can you can you
yeah,
send the template,
you
please, Jackie?
can.
Show.
Yeah,
But they're little things that if you can help guide new
mm,
coaches coming in, and even ones that have been in for a little while, going, wow, have we got some templates? Have we got
yeah,
that knowledge sharing like we're doing
mm,
here now
yeah,
is a bit of a wow factor. Oh, we can set these things up better,
yeah,
and you,
and support
you,
you.
you getting thrown at the deep end, you've learned the hard way, and
Mm,
obviously resilience.
yeah, yeah.
But was there a tipping point for you at some stage where retention's another thing. Let's go to development because we'll get to retention.
Okay.
Development's really important for your coaching, and leadership and management are two very different things. You can be a
Yeah,
great leader and a poor manager, great
yeah,
manager and a poor
yeah.
leader. They're different skills. What would you have wished you had known when you were walking into coaching that has developed over time would be beneficial?
I think my management of athletes and like support staff, or like I mean, I'm in a very, very privileged situation at the moment, where we at NSWIS we have, physio, strength and conditioning, like a really good performance
And
team,
clear roles and define, yeah,
clear roles, and managing those people, but in a club um perspective. I think it's managing your athletes, managing the parents, and also the club, you know, knowing in the club who you have to talk to about how to get more pool space, knowing how you can push it a little further, and you want the kids to go and enter a tournament here and there, but sort of knowing your stakeholders,
yeah,
and being able to work with them, and for the betterment of your team.
yeah. So those skills are really important. The managing. What
Yeah.
about the softer skills of coaching? Did you have to develop? 'Cause when you get to the highest level, the feedback can be pretty brutal and
Oh, yeah.
unbelievably brutal.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I find that the hardest thing to, those conversations when you're deselecting an athlete, or, that's just, yeah,
it's a
it's not
nature of
fun,
sport,
the
and it's
nature of
yeah.
a high performance sport. But, I think for me, I'm a better coach since I've been a parent. And, you know, putting myself in the parents' situation of,
Yeah.
your kids being cut, or, not make the A team, or whatever. I think I'm a lot more empathetic and understanding since I've been a
So
parent.
those softer skills
So
are
I've
under,
had sort of, yeah, two
yeah,
iterations of my coaching career. One before I was a parent, and
yeah,
now I'm
yeah.
since I've been a parent. So I think I was a lot harsher or harder in that first little bit
Yeah.
when I
We've got the hard shell because of
yeah
the high performance
yeah
standard in Sabrina.
yeah.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot more understanding and empathy goes into that. And I think one of the really important skills that coaches need is to be able to develop a rapport with their athletes.
Yeah.
And the best rugby league coaches, you've got Wayne Bennett, Craig Bellamy, Ricky Stewart. They all have really good rapport with their athletes, and they care about them as people. And it's not just what they do in the water or on the football field or in
Yeah.
the water polo pool. It's that real care that you have for them as a person, as a whole person, and find out what they're doing at uni or at school, or
Yeah.
what's going on in their lives. And I just think I think that's one of my strengths, and I think it's a really important skill to have.
Absolutely. You've got to be able to lean into the conversations that need to be had, but there's a certain way of delivering
Mm.
a message of,
Yeah,
hey, you need to improve in these areas, not
yeah,
to say you're terrible at this
mm,
and
yeah,
shatter confidence and not getting them to come
yeah,
back. So developing those softer skills is important.
yeah, and knowing that it's uni exam time, and this person has stayed up all night
Yeah.
studying,
Yeah.
and well, maybe they do need the morning off,
Yeah.
and to just have that leniency. And
Give them a bit of space
yeah,
when they
yeah,
need it. Yeah.
yeah, or they're having a bad day, so you keep away, or just knowing them is
Yeah.
really important.
Some of that comes with experience in coaching,
Yeah,
as you evolve. But you actually touched on a really good point where we're talking off camera before it started with often the coaching can evolve because you become a parent and you want to and your kid wants to play, so you can tick a couple of boxes
yeah,
going, well, I can get back to the sport. I'm already here, so I'm coaching my child and their friends and peers.
yes,
That also comes with inherent
yeah,
problems because you're coaching your child.
yeah.
And am I showing nepotism? Am I being too hard on them? How did you find that for people that are coming in?
Yeah, I've coached two of my daughters at for Cronulla, and I it's difficult.
And
And
what age groups? Was that early in the
um, uh, under 14s. One of
so
them I
it's,
coached under
it's
14s, under
young? Yep.
16s.
Yep.
The other one I coached under 16s, under 18s.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so quite young. And and it is oh, well, and you sometimes get sucked in. You go, oh, well, you've played water polo. You're going to be here. You may as well coach. So
Yep.
you do.
Yeah.
And it is hard. It's hard on your kids, and it's hard on you. And I think people are either one way or the other. They're really hard on their own kids, and
Yep.
they're the ones that they'll take out of the water when oh, well, you don't want to upset anyone else. Oh, my kid will get out, and it won't matter.
Yeah.
Or there's the ones that see them through rose-colored glasses, and their child doesn't get out of the water. So
Yeah.
my girls always knew that if I was coaching their team, they weren't getting the MVP. That's for sure.
Which is, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because they can be fantastic and tick all the boxes, but it is that a balancing
Mm.
act. Was there a stage where you had to, you've got to turn off the noise yourself from other parents? Did you find yourself trying to appease too many others and not doing that? How did you balance that?
Yeah, it's quite hard, and I think at a club level, for me, there wasn't too much noise from the other parents, because I knew them, and
Okay, yeah,
stuff like that, so it was quite friendly. But I think when you get up into the higher levels of state teams and things like that, I
yeah,
think, I mean, you have to be really careful. And I mentioned to you in the opener, like, unless you're Ivan Cleary coaching Nathan Cleary, you know your kid's not a certainty. So, yeah, you just have to make sure that all the dotted for rep teams and stuff that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's,
Yeah.
and they deserve that spot, because a lot of coaches have come undone for putting their kids in teams when they maybe shouldn't have.
I think the other important thing for people to realize, and you can push back, that you're volunteering your time.
Yeah,
And it's okay to say that. A lot of you're putting a lot of extra hours, a lot of extra time, and sacrificing yourself. And I want to go into how did you balance it all, but sometimes it's okay to push back and say, I'm giving up my time
yeah,
to help your children. So
yeah. I'm coaching your kid as well
yeah,
as mine.
yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. And I'm trying. One other thing you touched on when you started as an athlete was fun.
yeah,
Was that something you also concentrated on and still do
yeah,
with your training?
yeah. I think it's important to have a good time,
Yep.
and be enjoying yourself and having a positive, enjoyable environment where people aren't afraid to make mistakes, and they will have a go. And like I said, it's a little bit more difficult now when everything is funded, that
Yep.
there's that expectation. But I took a Australian under 20s development team to Europe last year, and it was a really short trip. It cost them $12,000 per athlete.
Yeah. Wow.
And you want to give them some time to go and see stuff, and go sightseeing in Rome. And
Yep.
we were lucky that we weren't there for a world championships or anything like that. It was a training tournament, so
Yep.
a training tour, so it didn't matter. Okay, well, yeah, go. You've got 2 hours to go and do what you like today, or we're all going to go here. So I
Yep.
think you've there's got to be that element of enjoyment, and
Yep.
bonding, and getting to know each other and having some fun.
Absolutely. But keeping the standards that need to be
Yeah. Well,
in the pool as well.
when you need to switch on. So okay, we've had a great day of sightseeing, but now we're at the pool. It's time to train. You need to
Yep.
focus and
Yep.
train well. Otherwise, we might not be able to go sightseeing tomorrow. There's always
Exactly.
a double edge kind of give and
Yeah.
take. I've let
Yep.
you do this now. Now I
Yep.
need you to focus.
Absolutely. And pushing, don't let people push those down. You all always get some that will push
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So did you make an ex are you one to make an example of this is not of a person, but this is not behavior that's accepted?
yeah.
Are you one
I
to
try
call
to
that out?
with like more elite teams. I mean, I haven't coached a club team in quite a few years. So,
Yep.
with the elite coaching, you get you kind of set the values and the rules as
Yep.
such. What we'll accept, what we won't accept. And I feel like if you let the athletes set those boundaries, or behaviors that you'll
Yep.
accept, then they have a lot more responsibility,
Yep.
and they also have, they're a lot more accountable because they've set the rules or
Yep.
the boundaries. So we don't accept people that are late, and they've developed the consequences for what happens. So
Yep.
so you give them that ownership with like a kind of a guided conversation as to what do we think of this, and what would happen if someone
Yep.
that.
And then it's peer led.
Yeah,
So it's not, yeah,
yeah,
it's not the hierarchy I said and you will do.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
common set of values that you agreed on.
yeah,
So they're pushing back on that. I'm interested at when family comes in, it's a big decision to make
yeah,
for women. Do I stay involved? I'm working family. How do I
yeah.
balance? Do I walk away? Then how did you approach that and how did it affect you and how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think when I first started coaching, I coached one daughter and then stopped that and then coached the next one. So it wasn't two at the same time.
Yep.
But I think, like, I was I was working as a teacher, and I'd have to take one of them to take them to training. So as you said, I'd be there. I'd coach. I'd come home. My I feel like my youngest son, who got dragged along from probably the age of 8 or 9
Yeah.
to trainings and games and things like that. He's got a very good eye for water polo and is
Yeah.
able to critique everyone really
Oh,
well.
really? Yeah.
He's learned a lot
Yeah.
from
From that
watching.
observation. Yeah.
But I just think you make it work.
Yeah.
You might leave a couple of them. I've got 4 kids, so
Oh,
you
wow. You're a superstar
take,
doing that. Yeah.
take one to training and leave the other 3 at home, and
Yeah.
or they'd all come and a couple would swim and the
Yeah.
others would train. And I think if you want to do it, you make it work. It's really like with anything. And you've got that support network. There was always, a couple of mums hanging around that would, look after
Yeah.
the others or keep their eye on the others
Yeah.
that weren't training. So, I think clubs really have a good community
Yeah.
and are there to support each other. So I know most water polo clubs in Sydney have really good communities and a lot of people that
Yeah.
are the backbone of the club that would help you in that way.
And did you find that was a good outlet for you
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well
It was,
for your well-being that you're staying involved in the sport
yeah,
that
staying
you
involved,
love?
staying relevant, giving back to the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, going along and seeing friends that I'd played with, our daughters playing against each other or our
Yeah.
sons playing against each other. It's just, there's a lot of good people in water polo, and
Yeah.
you know,
So it gives you that social aspect
yeah,
as well, because it's a decision. This is all too hard. It's a
yeah,
lot of time. It's a lot organized. That 4 kids, like,
yeah,
amazing effort to be able to balance that. But you can say it's too hard. I'm not doing it. But then, what are you doing with that time? And
yeah,
you lose that social aspect and outlet.
yeah. And if you have to drive them there anyway and
Yeah.
pick them up again, you may as well be there for the hour
Yeah. By
or
the time you drive there, drive back, drive
yeah,
there, drive back, the extra
yeah.
the hour that or half an hour that you put
Yeah,
in.
and it's great to see them learn and improve. And I love water polo, and that's what I try to. You know, I want to just give off, show everyone that love and that enjoyment, and I want my athletes to love it, not just to think that it's a chore and it's something that I have to do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So the giving back aspect, the development aspect, but seeing the younger ones grow and develop
Yeah,
and push through is very rewarding. But
yeah,
then you've had to make a decision on stepping up the ranks yourself with
yeah.
coaching. You've coached. How did that evolve as
Um,
the kids got older, or where did the opportunities
yeah.
come from?
That was so the so this second iteration of my professional coaching career, when Paul Oberman got named as the Stingers coach, he kind of sounded me out and said, are you interested in coaching again? And I went, oh yeah, I don't know, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And so yes, I'll come along to
How long
the.
had your break been in between that gap?
Oh, so I retired from professional coaching. So I worked at NSWIS from 98 to 2000. So I worked with
Yep.
the Olympic team in 2000 that won the
Yep.
gold medal. And then I went back to teaching, had kids, and then just did some club
The
coaching.
juniors. Yep. Yep.
And this was like 20, 2022.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Coming out of
So,
lockdowns and all that sort of stuff,
yeah.
and it's ramping
So
back up.
went to the first camp, not really knowing if I was going to be up to speed, or whether how much the game had changed, or whether I would even still enjoy it. But
Yeah.
yeah, went along and realized that you know it's a simple game really, and you know it was fun. I had a really good time. I felt like my ideas and thoughts around the game were still relevant. So then this assistant coach's job came up at NSWIS, so I applied for that and got the job. So that was the stepping stone to the second.
It's a big question. Relevance is when you've stepped out for a little while and you're thinking about that question, you go, well, am I still relevant in the game?
Yeah.
Am I thought? Were you watching much volleyball around the world, or that were you invested still in the game to watch, or not
I
really?
wasn't watching any volleyball. I was watching a little bit of water polo, but
Water polo, beg your pardon. Sorry,
um,
my
look,
bad.
no, look, if games were on, I'd go and watch a bit of National League and
Yeah.
things like that. I wasn't really,
So you weren't a big watcher of.
no, no.
So it's a big question for you: is am I
Yeah,
still relevant?
was I relevant? And
Yeah,
um, how much had the game changed?
yeah.
Were my
And your experience when you went in there and watched for a little bit, it was like,
Yeah, it was good. Like, yeah, things have changed a
yeah,
lot, but I think I kind of quickly got up to speed
yeah.
on what
And
I need
what
to
had
do.
changed for you? Was it the fundamentals hadn't changed much, but it was more around tactics
Yeah, I
and
think a few of the rules have changed that made things a little bit easier or harder, and yeah, just the I think the fitness and the professionalism of the athletes
yeah,
was what really struck me,
yeah,
and the so many support staff around that that support the athletes and enable them to be the best that they can be,
yeah,
and the amount of training that they do now.
yeah.
um, yeah, so I mean the game was faster, the athletes are stronger. It's yeah, I feel like
So
there's
was there things that you had? Sorry, I didn't mean to
a lot
interrupt.
more holding and grabbing, but
Is that right?
yeah, I feel like I don't know if I could play
I
today.
would have thought it'd be more physical back.
No,
I
I
used to
feel
do.
like I don't think I could play today.
Is
It's
that because
a lot
the extra
of
training, the extra
core.
strength and
No,
conditioning
not the
that?
training, but just like the physicality of the game. It can be brutal.
It's very surprising, actually, how
Yeah,
good the holding and
yeah.
the.
There's so much holding now.
So, did you have to develop your coaching when you came back in? What were the things that stood out to you that, well, I need to work on? What stood out to you?
I Oh, that's a good question. I think I think I've always had the soft skills, the rapport, the relationships, the rapport. Um, I think one of my areas at work on is was feedback, to be able to give like immediate feedback and kind of technical feedback.
Yeah,
Um,
as they're coming out of the water. So
no,
that was immediate
just
or after
doing
game?
like
Yeah.
both during the session, after
Okay.
sessions, in games,
Yeah.
um, and I think with the NSWIS gig, we don't actually coach in games. It's a lot of just training the athletes to play for clubs. So a lot of that in-game stuff I was lacking, the practice of substituting and changing tactics and things like that is what
Okay.
I needed to brush up on.
Yeah. There's a lot on offer for development that um, are perceived that we need skills in these areas. But are there things that you would suggest to new coaches that you're better off looking at? Is it learning fundamentals and people management first? What would you suggest that is really good to develop your skills coming into coaching and then as you evolve through it?
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously it's important to know the basics of the game and those finer technical details of shooting, um, defending, and leg work and power. I think as you get those, you can teach those. It's then moving into a bit more tactical and having two or three extra man attack plays that you can teach your team to do, or two or three different extra man defenses, or 6-on-6 attacks and defenses. Not too much, because it's really a very simple game, so you don't want to overwhelm the kids with tactical instruction.
Getting too deep into the weeds of,
And you also want them to be able to play and
yeah,
play what they see in front of them and have that creativity and the freedom to
Yeah.
be able to go, oh, I'm on, so I'm going to shoot.
Yeah.
Not, oh, no, Jackie said we have to play this. I have to give this
There's going
pass.
to be two passes before you
Yeah,
throw. Yeah.
yeah. To have that freedom and be able to go, well, I was on, so I shot. You know, no one ever gets into trouble for shooting if they're on. That's, you know, if they shoot and they've got 4 defenders on them, that's when
Yeah.
you might get annoyed. But I think that creativity,
Yeah.
allowing them to play with creativity and play what they see and not like robots.
Yep.
And that's what I find teams that have too many tactics, the athletes are too scared to try things
Yep.
because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to make a mistake. So they don't have
Almost becomes
play with
confusing what I
flair.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't play with flair. They don't go, oh, there's an opportunity for me to do this and
Yeah.
that opportunity. And that's what the best players in the world do.
Do you think sometimes when we're developing coaches or thinking of when we start coaching, sometimes we can fall back on if I was a defensive player all my career, that's what I know
Yeah.
well, so that's
But
what
I'm
we're
good
going to
at
coach. Or if I was a forward, this
yeah,
so it's that can be an overarching development, as you said, getting that balance of
yeah,
defense, attack, mid,
yeah,
and understanding that don't overwhelm
yeah,
with too much if because it
defending.
can just be defending the whole game and not
Yeah,
it gets
yeah,
boring.
yeah. You need to keep it simple,
Yeah.
um, but
But
yeah,
there's skills that you would suggest to learn
yeah,
teach them a bit of everything.
yeah, yes, for sure. Because you
Yeah,
need to attack, and everyone needs to attack, and everyone needs to defend. And I also think in water polo today, um, we apart from your goalkeepers, a lot of athletes get pigeonholed into a certain position way too young. I think,
really.
yeah, I think, you know, people go, oh, you're a left-hand driver, you're a right-hand driver, you're this, you're that. I think we need to develop a whole round athlete to be able to play in any position. And then as they get older, they can specialize. So they need to know how to be a centre back. They need to know how to play a bit of centre forward. They need to know how to be able to drive and defend a drive. Yeah, as they're going through the age groups and not go, no, well, I'm only a centre back. I don't defend out the top. I think everyone needs to be able to play in every position as a
That's
young.
very interesting because there can be some that are naturally more gifted in
Mm,
different areas, but if you you really feel if you at the younger age you need to have
yeah,
an understanding
uh,
even of what it feels like to be
it helps you
in
understand the
the
game.
yeah, yeah. So when you're sometimes if you're labeled as that and stuck in that, you
Yeah,
can say, why aren't you people do it? Why aren't you guys doing that? Or why aren't you doing and have you played that role? Do you understand the pressures of
mm, yeah.
you're big
What
on
happens there?
yeah,
What you need? Yeah, I think they all need to play everywhere.
and then understand
Yeah, and then as they get older, they can specialize and be a driver or a centre. I mean, centre forwards often it's because of their size that they get put into that centre
yeah,
forward position. But I still think they can. You know, there's a lot of centre forwards with a really good outside shot that never get the opportunity to take one.
yeah. What about communication? How do you teach communication to teammates in and out of the pool of how they talk to each other and conduct each other? Do you encourage everyone to use their voice, but we don't tolerate
Yeah, I think it's one of those values that you set early on, and you know you need to be encouraging of each other. We you know last year or the year before in the NSWIS team there was a bit of NSWIS squad there was a bit of you know narkiness and things like that, and we we've talked about a way to speak to your teammates as not why did you do that or what, and I needed the ball a little bit higher or I needed you to drive or it's what the way you speak to them and it's what you
yeah,
need. It's not why did you do that or why didn't you do this. It's letting them know, oh, could you pass it a bit higher or could you pass it a bit
yeah.
lower or things like
So
that.
that positive feedback and reinforcement, how do we make each other better?
Yeah,
It's
it
how you
makes everyone
deliver
better.
it
Yeah.
on that because there's skills you need to teach early as
Yes.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Otherwise,
even, even at training a couple of weeks ago, it was, passing drill. But if someone passes it too high or too low, tell them. Like, they're
yeah,
not to know if you don't tell them. But you don't
that's
say,
exactly.
"You idiot, why did you pass the ball there?" You say, "Oh, could you just pass it a bit higher? I need it higher." And yeah.
Yeah, don't throw the hands up and go, "Oh my God!" It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
if you can put it in this position, it helps us.
It helps me shoot. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
there, there's that analogy of the 10,000 hour rule, whether it's right or wrong. But if you practice the wrong thing for 10,000 hours, you're
yeah.
practicing the wrong.
Trouble.
So
Yeah.
it is giving that feedback real time, but how you deliver it and that, teaching communication from a young age and
Mm.
running through. Were you fearful as an athlete growing up to use your voice because of how I was conducted, or you were supported to use your voice in that area?
Uh, I I feel like early on in my career there may have been a few players in the team that you wouldn't have told that you wanted the ball a little bit higher or a little bit lower.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because of the younger age, but when you got to
yeah,
leadership, if someone had behaved in that way, would you have pulled them up?
yeah. I think
Would
so.
say
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
yeah. Sometimes a bit of maturity, isn't it?
yeah. It is. Yeah,
Yeah. But if you can call that out as a coach
yeah,
to
and allow that freedom of,
yeah,
the youngest player can speak to the oldest player,
yeah,
um, and tell them what they needed them to do in a certain situation.
yeah, yeah. Because you need people to thrive under pressure in their way. That's what makes them special. But if you make them robots that
That's right.
can't do it
Yeah.
and express themselves, then you're not going to get the best out
No,
of them at all. Retention's a really important one for women coaches,
sure is.
particularly. Oh, definitely. Are there some suggestions you think that we can do better to retain young coaches to keep them in there, or ones that are starting to question their legacy
Yeah,
or work?
I think we have to value them. We have to um, appreciate coaches, female coaches especially,
Yeah,
and we have to value them and give them opportunities. There's there's a big push out there for male coaches and European coaches and things like that, but our homegrown coaches are just as good as anyone, and I think we need to value them and support them to
yeah,
develop and grow and give them opportunity, like um, coming along to stingers sessions or shark sessions. I know Tim Hamill's been, really open in him having some development coaches come along to watch him coach, and
yeah,
um, Vedran as well. So, and last year when I was head coach of NSWIS, we had a couple of junior coaches come along to our morning sessions and just watch what was going on and learn from that. And I think that's really valuable to give them that experience to see what it's like in that high performance environment, and keep and support them, giving them
yeah.
opportunities.
Did you have a mentor or a guide early in your career? Would you have liked one? Is that something?
I didn't have one. I Not in so many words,
Yeah,
that, I didn't say to someone, "Can you be my mentor?" But Ian Trent, I would see him as my mentor, and as one of my supports during my coaching career. And I was lucky enough last year to be involved in the AIS mentor mentee
yeah,
program, and I was paired up with Mark Hagar, who's now the Kookaburras head coach, and I think it's just good to be able to talk to someone who is also a coach, and just, we were totally different sports. He was hockey, I was water polo, and you're just able to you share kind of,
yeah,
that it's going, the same things that annoy you in water polo were annoying him in hockey. And I
yeah,
just think it's good to, like, well, they say a problem shared is a problem halved. So you can just go, "Oh, what about this?" and
yeah,
things like that. So I think a mentor program would be really beneficial for our female coaching.
yeah. You
Yeah,
need that safe space. As a
yeah,
coach, you
and
can often be the one that everyone's looking at to have all the answers,
mm,
and you don't have all the answers because
right,
you're a human being. But having that safe space to share with someone, how do
yeah,
you handle this, or have you experienced that, or what do you suggest?
yeah,
That's really important. And that was a great point you brought up. Sharing cross sport
mm,
for peers cross sport, you found that very good for
yeah. I think
your
that was really
development.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
He was great, and he at the time he was like the pathways coach for Hockey Australia, and now he's got the big promotion to the Kookaburras coach. So it was good to see him
yeah, yeah.
move on to that. And yeah, I just think even in a club environment, you could just pair up with someone and be
Yep.
able to chat and say, oh, experience, well, this is what's happened to me, how would you deal with that, and things like that. And I think these coffee club things could develop into a more kind of chatting thing, and
Yes.
asking young female coaches asking questions about how do you deal with this, things that they've experienced. And
Yep.
yeah, I'm always happy to answer any questions that
So
anyone.
a coffee couch scenario where there's
Yeah,
a few around, just
yeah,
throwing some sharing and some knowledge, and these
yeah.
are things that I come up with. It's a it's a great idea. Do we, when you're talking about value, a lot of the study and work I've done, um, do we celebrate and showcase women coaches enough? I've got my opinion on,
No.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hang on, do you want me to think about that? No. Um,
no,
yeah,
no, we don't, do we?
no, not at all.
Yeah.
In our national league um, coaching ranks this season, there was one female coach out of, or two female coaches out of, um, I think there's 12 men's and 12
Is that
women's.
right? Yeah.
And I was thinking back today through history. I think there's only ever been maybe four other females coach AWL teams. So Beck Rippon, Mel Rippon, Debbie Watson, Alicia McCormack.
Yeah.
They're the only ones who've been. I could be wrong. There could be
I'm not
more,
going to
but
hold you to,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, that, yeah.
and that's not good enough. I don't think we need to promote female coaches, and um, celebrate them.
Oh, we need to showcase and celebrate, draw out experience like we're doing here. So thank you so much for your time of doing it. But it's when I have conversations with national sporting organisations, say, yeah, we're doing this for women's coaching. You say, well, I can't see anything on your webpage. I
Yeah,
can't see anything on
no,
your social
and
media
it's not
celebrating
hard.
the coaching. I can't. So, in fact, no, it's still hidden away.
Yeah,
We,
yeah,
we need to do it a lot better.
yeah. And I'm not saying give a woman a job because she's
I'm
a
not
woman.
tokenism because
Yeah, yeah,
that just causes its
yeah. But
major problems that you were
yeah,
given this job and
when
yeah,
someone is doing a good job,
yeah,
you celebrate that.
absolutely. And draw out this knowledge and experience because there's a lot of it out there. But the more you can talk about it and celebrate and showcase it, the more we're going to attract
Yes.
women to
Well,
the
you
coaching.
can't.
Yeah,
What is it? You can't be what you
what
can't
you
see.
can't see, which is it's so true.
Yeah,
But you've stayed in the game for a long time, and you love what you do, and you grow, and we can always improve. And
yeah,
so
well,
staying involved is really
yeah.
beneficial. But if we don't hear about it,
No,
with the coaches, it's
it's
we're
not.
trying to bring them in.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Jackie. That's an hour gone already.
Ooh,
It goes very quickly.
I
So
hope
thank you.
everyone's still awake out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We might bring people in, but first and foremost, thank you so much for your time. And
It's my pleasure.
I know it's evening time and family time and everything, so really appreciate it. But your knowledge, experience is unbelievable. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Yeah,
Really,
thank
really,
you.
that actually just bang, that went very quickly.
Yeah.
Jacob, if you'd like to stop the record, we might bring